Alright, Mid-Year Mitch fans, we have a new project in the shop today. Join us now as Mitch and his crew of Maverick mechanics cut, grind, and glue, transforming an ordinary 1965 Corvette into a resto mod with a Roadster Shop Spec 7 chassis in Mid-Year Mitch's garage.
Alright, so we're here on day 3. This is the final day of the build. We basically finished it on day 1. Day 2 was a lot of small details. So I wanted to kind of put it up to the group and see what everybody wanted to finish up. We went a couple different directions yesterday. We modified the tunnel, got the centerpiece in. We had to pie cut this tunnel to raise it a little bit, and all that turned out good. We got the shift console back in. There's the extra clearance now for the shifters. I mean, all that looks factory. And we ended up pulling the dash out, all the trim and the glass. And in the middle of pulling out the trim, Chris was banging on this windshield frame and this thing was moving about an inch each direction. So we got a little concerned. If you want to open that door and show them inside I was picking up the outside pillar of the windshield with a putty knife, and I just kept poking through for about 3 inches going up it. So the lower is definitely soft. In here's bad. This portion could be patched of this cross member, but unfortunately the inner is shot. The outer doesn't look bad, but it's hard to tell with the front end here. So I kind of wanted to throw it up to you guys here. This is the final day. I was planning to put the steel back here, just like some flat steel. I have it laying back there to build a new like package tray luggage support area. We have the original one, but it's flimsy. I don't think it did a great job of supporting the bird cage. So I would like to use heavier gauge stuff. We could just take one piece of that. I think it was like 12 gauge or something. And then I have a couple pieces of strap. We can build like a little angle iron piece to go from side to side. And then you could put a little cover in here, or you could leave it. You could carpet it, and then you still have a little bit of a storage well. So we could either do that. The other option is I have those bird cage pieces laying here for demonstration to show what's damaged and how far under the fiberglass it goes. The other option, with Jeff's permission, is we pull the front end off of this car and really see how bad it is or how good it is. Or we could just, we put the steel in it, put the hood on it, deck lid, push it outside, and it looks like we finished on a good note. The car is mint. We didn't hack it up, and it looks better than whenever it came. We could work on the smooth firewall and install that. The other option is we could play with that 65 in there. The side fenders need glued on that, so we can start mocking those up. So there's a lot of different directions that we can go. So I kind of want to throw it up to you guys to see what you were most interested in and what Jeff is most comfortable with.
I think we could do a few things.
Yeah.
I don't think there's just like pick one for the rest of the
Right,
day.
yeah, like I was gonna say, you can pick like 3.
I want to do that. No, now I want to do that. I want to do that.
I like the fender idea.
I like the fender idea and the front end idea.
You're right. I'm gonna say.
Go for front end.
Jeff's gonna get out.
Hold up. No. So as far as the front end goes, I'm fine. I think you said it wouldn't take too long. And how long would it take to actually take off
I
the front
got
end?
mine off in an
I mean,
hour
if you
and a
just
half.
take it
I
off.
didn't really know what I was doing.
With this many guys, it shouldn't be too bad unless they buried a bunch of screws in here or pop rivets, and then we gotta fight stuff. But if we're careful, I think once we get the wiring and whatever else is connecting it, I don't think it should take all that long.
Okay.
Because I mean, this inner fender is already coming out.
Yeah. I think that's the best option is take it off, see what's going on before we invest anymore.
Well, I guess we should get the air hammers out before he changes his mind.
And then definitely I want to do, I'd love to see how that inner fender goes on over there as well.
Okay.
I think that'd be fantastic.
Okay, then I think we should scooch the car over this way, maybe roll it outside and just get some good pictures of it while it looks majestic.
Okay.
Before we cut her up more, because it looks good from here.
Now let's meet the builders and the projects that brought them here. Vehicle owner, Jeff, sticks around for the build. He has removed the flares and the ugly wing and taillights from this car. Doug joins us, and he owns a 72 Corvette that needs a full restoration, and he found some birdcage rust and fiberglass repair work, so that's why he came to the shop. Our first Chris of the build has a 1956 Corvette that he's modifying with an aftermarket chassis and C4 suspension. Gene is rebuilding a 63 split window, which was the former show car Orange Ray, which had new body panels put on by Stingray City on a Roadster Shop chassis. Father-son team of Ford fanatics turned Corvette lovers is restomodding a 64 convertible with a Roadster Shop chassis and getting a Mid-Year Mitch split window. Don from Glaze's Geezer Garage is restomodding this split window that I featured on a Mid-Year Mitch video. It needed birdcage repair, fiberglass repair. It's on a Roadster Shop chassis and the body is coming back together. Chris, the one-man Corvette Army burger-slinging chef that was featured on Tropic Like It's Hot on HGTV, is restoring a 65 Corvette on a Roadster Shop chassis that had extensive birdcage rust that he had to tear completely down, and Mid-Year Mitch coached him through the whole process. Master fiberglass layer and glue slinger Mid-Year Mitch sticks on for the build.
That's separated up to here. So now we can go under here. It bonds to the rocker right here.
Pretty tight.
Yeah, if we could get a wedge. It's back home. Now that's where we get into the switchback. This might just be pulling the bonding strip out of the steel. Yeah. Scared yet? If we can relieve it a little bit here, that might make it pop.
I think there's a glue here because it's tight on something.
brass or what we have?
Makes you nervous. This point.
Upside down in the brass.
Holy crap, look at the size of that
I
sucker.
told you. You said Mickey, and I said, no, not Mickey.
Well, you got hit with part of it.
Uh-huh.
So we didn't get into a ton of detail when we were ripping the front end off. We were talking and we were walking through it, but I didn't always pull out the camera, or one of the other guys didn't always grab a camera to show you what we were doing. But basically, when I started to pull the front end off, I started on the driver's side and I worked at the inner fender to the side fender. So I worked at this seam right here first to break this loose to start to get the front of this fender moving and wiggling. Then I started working down the bottom by the rocker. I started pulling it up this way. That way we have a full degree of freedom. Whenever you're pulling fiberglass panels off, you want to try to loosen everything up as much as you can to give you that wiggle, so that way you can put pressure on it, because you can see there's still some fibers left behind. Sometimes there's not, but you want to be able to put pressure on it, so whenever you start to pop it with your air hammer and a chisel or a screwdriver, scraper, whatever you're using, that little bit of pressure will help pop the seam and open it up like a zipper. So once I got to this point, we had to rip the whole way up the door. Keep in mind, we may have forgot that it's bonded here. So we started working it here. We tried to work our way up here to get the whole side fender loose. Then we opened the door and started going at this seam right here. Started coming down this way. And when you get to this edge here, it's real thin, and when you get by a corner, it may be hard to get like your air hammer and your thick chisel in there. So a putty knife, a razor, something thin you can get in here that won't put a lot of pressure up, will prevent you from cracking these panels. So we started working this area, coming across this way. I started actually popping the bonding strip off, just trying to break it loose and start to wiggle it. But you have to be careful. The front end's a little bit thin, so it's hard to recognize sometimes where the bonding strip is and where the fiberglass bonding strip is. But we got through here. This is a little bit tricky in here because some of this is, it's hidden. You really can't get under it through here. So we basically worked this whole area. Then we started working across the top, and then they used putty knives and stuff just to try to work through here to get that loose, because this wiper area fiberglass is really thin and fragile. Once we got it all kind of free, we were able just to pop it if you're putting pressure on it. And if this is all that's left, you could just kind of pop it and the whole thing will break free, which is what they did. So in my opinion, it really helps to know where it's bonded before you start. So like I said, it goes on the rocker, partially up here, the whole way across here, through here, down here, and you can see there's some holes drilled here from where it may have been screwed whenever they attached that panel. This is not original adhesive, so it had a fender cap that was spliced in. I don't know if I have any good pictures of what that front end looked like, but it had some bad patches under here. It looked okay from the top. It was obviously in primer, but it had a fender cap that was spliced either this way or this way. And the biggest problem that I saw was like on this side, there was a patch on the underside. It was just a big old glob, and there was a big patch here, and there was a patch here, and there was a patch there. There was a bunch of big patches. You don't know what's underneath them. And the way that they were by the header bar, there could have been something lingering underneath. There was a lot of work. The inner fenders, which I can show you a little more, they were just in tough shape. I didn't like what they used for glue to glue the top in, so I was worried about the integrity. You know, these are just, they had a lot of patches, and now that they're out, if you really wanted to, you could sit here and you could hand lay all this and smooth it up and make it look nice if you're on a super tight budget. But at the end of the day, I'm doing this for a customer. If you're doing this on your own, you're on a tight budget, you know, put an hourly rate on your work. But I'm doing this for a customer. So in my opinion, I want to have the good peace of mind that we put a good nose on this. It's not going to come back. Whenever it's painted 5 years, 2 years, you know, 30 days down the road, he's not going to come knocking saying, hey, all these things are showing up. I'm getting cracks. Some seams are showing through. What the heck? But if we put a whole new front end on it, and we're going to put a Vet Masters front end on it, similar to that one, we're going to put that on it because I had really good luck fitting it on that car. Time is money for me. The inner fenders are already mostly glued in there, and the hood fits up really nice. We have an original over there, a 67 Stinger hood. So I know the hood will fit the front end. Time's money, and we're just going to put a whole new front end with new inner fenders, and then we'll glue the side fenders on. Again, it'll be a 65 front end just like this. So all we'll have to do is scuff all this stuff up after we fix the bird cage and put the firewall back on. We'll scuff everything, and we honestly should be able to glue that thing back in no problem. We have to remove this big old honking bracket that was welded to that front end for some reason. But honestly, the guys did a great job in the class. We pulled the front end off. It's a shame that we pulled it off so nicely. We only had one little crack right here, which is where the seam was, where they had different panels. That was like the only damage that I saw from us working. We took it apart perfectly. And then we went and cut it right here. And then I think Chris cut it right here and right here. And then he threw it in the bed of his truck and took it away for a wall hanger. So we worked really hard to take this thing off without damaging it. I think we only have a little piece of damaged fiberglass above that hood latch, just like that. That's okay. That happens. That was the only thing that was really damaged. All the bonding strips came out intact, and it's just funny that we took so much care and then chopped it up, 20 minutes later. But that's fine because there's no backing out. He's going full commit with a new front end, and it's going to make this car great. Now you may be wondering, how much money does he have? He's going to be buried in this thing because now he just put a whole new front end on it. Well, it's a scratch and dent special. I pulled some strings. I know some people, and we got one that's not perfect, that's made with panels that had some type of defect or flaw to fit his budget. And the front end will be it's a press molded front end, just like this one, but it costs less than what he paid for the car, minus the chassis. Like, he obviously fixed the quarters, he had that thing primed, he did a bunch of body work on it, he had the engine gone through and transmission. He spent a lot of money, but for the original project, the front end's less than the car. So he's gonna be okay. I'm gonna take care of him with this rust here. We have some new panels for that, and it'll be fine. So this car is gonna sit here for a little bit. I've got to get this one home. I've got to do some bartering with Greg so we can get our new shop rolling. So he's doing some work for me. So this one will be put on the sideline for a little bit, but once we get some work on overkill and get this other 65 out of here, we'll pull the firewall off of this, fix the rust, and then we'll get him out here to detail the chassis, and he can put his tank in, run his lines, and this will be on a rotisserie. We'll smooth the underside of it up, and then we'll get the front end on it, and then it'll go home. So there's a month and a half, 2 months worth of work on this car. if you're working on it full time, maybe you get it done in a month, but it takes me a long time to get anything done. But you know, this will be a really nice car when it's done. I'm happy with the progress that we made. You just mix her up just a little toasty. And even if you accidentally glue the door shut, once it starts to pick, you can cut it with. So this 65 Roadster, I got the front end on this Monday, and we started test fitting the gills on Sunday to finish off the week. And that will be in an upcoming video. We had to do a little bit of filling just to get everything to fit right, but those gills are basically ready to glue. This car, the whole goal was to do the Roadster Shop chassis swap, and that was it. But then we found, whenever he brought it to me, that it had some rust in the windshield pillar, and the front end had a lot of bad patches. The inner fenders were bad. So we ended up pulling the whole front end off. I didn't think we would get into it, but we convinced the owner to do it. And not only did we convince him to take it off before he could back out and change his mind about putting a new clip on it, one of the guys said he wanted it, so they cut the beak of it off and cut it into pieces, and he took it with him. So that front end is not going on this car because it's going on somebody's wall. But this thing turned out pretty awesome. It was a fun week. Basically, you can do the Roadster Shop chassis swap in your C2 Vet with the help of Dynamic Corvette's rear tubs and the help of like 8 people in one day. So that was a really awesome setup. Now I got overkill on the rotisserie. I unfortunately wasn't able to video any of the rotisserie build. I still have to make some pieces of steel to connect the rotisserie front to back, just because, well, I ran out of time, I ran out of steel, and this clamped up, it's still a little tippy, so I have to bolt and weld some pieces into the hoops so that way this thing is stiff enough so we can actually roll it. But we started scuffing and prepping the firewall here. The smooth firewall first design is about ready to go in. We put some bonding strips across the top, scuffed the whole thing, and the pieces, there's one piece there, and the other piece is somewhere around, that's back there. The other piece is back there ready to glue in. So it was cool. You know, we didn't finish gluing the firewall in, we didn't glue those side fenders on, but we had different things to cover. They wanted to see how to fit a smooth firewall and some techniques to go about that. We touched on that. They wanted to see how to fit some of these side fenders and how I get panels to fit up with a nice gap and how to make them flow. So we did that. We talked about gluing a couple of times with this floor, so we didn't need to really touch on that. We touched on hand laying fiberglass, which is what we did with our tunnel. There's still stuff that needs to be patched up, but again, you know, it was just kind of a crash course. This is how I do it. Everybody does things a little bit differently. But the idea was to give them a lot of knowledge about different things. And before I knew that we were going to rip the front end off, I wanted to rip the front end off. I didn't think we would do it as part of the class. So I brought this hood over, which I got off of my buddy. He's been trying to sell it at Carlisle for several years now. It's a aftermarket Eckler's piece. Nobody wanted to buy it because it's hand laid and because of this design, but it's on a 67 big block inner structure. Again, it's still a reproduction piece, but this structure is more valuable apart from this hood than it is together as one piece. So I brought this over so we could peel it apart so I can use this structure for something else or sell it. And then I'm going to turn this hood skin into a roof for my tractor so that way I don't get sunburned. So here in the Mid-Year Mitch garage, we believe in using every piece of the Buffalo. This is a much nicer car than what it was a week ago. And all we did was remove fiberglass and change some pieces. So honestly, this is a really doable swap for you at home if you're considering it. I hope to do more work with the Roadster Shop chassis. We do sell Roadster Shop chassis. This is one that we sold. That is one that we sold. And this has the first one that we purchased. So, you know, we've sold quite a few. We're pretty experienced on these things, so we can help answer questions, give you guidance, and get you running with your project, because that's what we do here. We do vets. So I'm super knowledgeable with getting these to fit. I just want to say real quick, shout out to all the guys that came to the class. Everybody was super respectful of Jeff's car. They were respectful of the shop and of each other. There weren't any issues. Nobody was picking fights. There were no egos. Everybody was here to learn. Everybody was here to work. And, you know, we didn't have any problems. And I'm really blessed for that. I wanted to thank all those guys because, you know, it was an amazing opportunity to get to meet them and to work with them. I had known a couple of them, you know, from before this, but I had never worked with any of them. So you never know what you're going to get whenever you get a whole bunch of random guys working in a space and they don't know the shop. You know, no one knew where the tools were. No one had a system going. So I think it worked really well. We will have more classes in the future. One of the guys that was in the class offered up his car to do the next class on, but I would like to do it at my own shop. So I'll keep you guys posted on what we do about that, but I've already had a lot of interest in that class. And you know, big shout out to Don for filming a lot of this stuff that you saw. Chris filmed a lot of stuff. Chris cooked and he brought food with him and he was awesome. So I think the next class will be a little more expensive, but I think we'll get catering. That way, you know, we don't have to worry about that, or, you know, we can just grill or whatever. But next time I think I want to include coffee and food and, you know, some more drinks and, you know, just have it more all-inclusive. I have a buddy that has a hotel down the road, so maybe we can get some deals on rooms for everybody just to make it more of a complete package for everybody. So that's kind of the plan. And for anybody that thinks the classes are a dumb idea and it's not worth it, well, I've had hundreds of people, literally hundreds of people, tell me that they are loving that a young guy like myself, who's 31, they're just really amazed that a guy like me is interested in this stuff, that wants to do fiberglass. And at the end of the day, I turn away dozens of people every year, you know, maybe 100 people every year. I say, sorry, I can't put a front end on your car. I can't put quarters. I can't fix your rust. Every once in a while, someone catches me at the right time, and I'm like, yep, I have room in the schedule. I'll squeeze you in if you catch me on the right day at the right time, and I happen to be looking at my emails. But most of the time, I have to tell people, no, I don't have time, because I'm years behind on my schedule. I'm one guy, and my thought process is, I know I have a couple good friends that do body work that would be interested in doing more Corvette work, panel replacement. And so for the next class, I invited them to come out to learn some more, because he's done panel replacements and he's done body work and he does phenomenal paint. So I'm gonna try to get him up to speed on doing full body builds and stuff. So maybe I can have somebody else to send stuff to. But the whole idea is to keep knowledge transferring. You know, I don't want to hold all this knowledge and just, you know, if something ever happens to me, all that knowledge goes away. And, you know, we want to keep these cars going. We want to keep this hobby going. And that's the best thing I can think of. If you think it's a dumb idea that I'm hosting classes, you know, you're entitled to your opinion. But other people do classes for less. I mean, you can take a class on probably making coffee, you know, which you can push a button on a machine and it'll do it for you. There's lots of classes out there that may not be all that worthwhile, but if you're interested in it, it's worthwhile and it supports somebody. So at the end of the day, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to wrap some of this up into something on my website. If you're not able to come to a class, you're too far away, it's cost prohibitive, I want to have a video that you can purchase on my website that's maybe not as full detail, but that has a lot of detail in it. So that way you can still get the information that you may need. So that's my thought process. Let me know what you think. What would you be interested in a class? This next one could be a full body build. It's not every single panel, that we don't have enough time for that to do that in a weekend, but it's a pretty nice car that was taken apart to fix rust that needs put back together, and it was taken apart in a way that I think we could do it in a long weekend, or at least most of it. That was the goal. We didn't get these side fenders glued on. I glued them on after the class. We didn't get the opportunity to glue them on, and that's okay because we did all the prep. We had them ready to go. They understood. We didn't get Overkill's smooth firewall fully installed. We got the bonding strips on, but we didn't have the firewall glued on, and that's also okay because the goal with that was just to show them how to fit it up. We didn't need to do the full setup. So everything that they did helped progress me along in the garage. We have plenty of material to work with. I just have to edit it. But you know, it was a real blessing to get to work with those guys and to get progress on this car, because it would have taken me forever to take that windshield out and all the trim, and it would have taken me a while to pull the front end off. But with that many guys, it did not take long at all. So if you are at home and you've got a big project ahead of you,
think about maybe inviting over a couple guys and working on it.